All right. Hello, everybody. Let me get back to. There we go. All right. Good to see you all. Doing something a little bit different here. I have not gone live across different platforms in quite a while. I used to do that when I was doing the AGC events, and let me get that off the page there. When I was doing the Accelerated Global Connections stuff, I really enjoyed doing that for my good friend Travis Sims. And life got busy. I wasn't able to keep that up, but um, wanted to do that with what I've got going on through the Time Wealthy Advantage, and this for people who are interested in just different aspects of the business for business owners and things like that. I had someone that suggested this that I do this, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a try. I enjoy doing stuff like this for business owners, and I have had a lot of calls from people some calls, actually some messages. I don't do WhatsApp. Are there any WhatsApp people out there? Because I am not a WhatsApp person. I know that is very common for people not in the United States, but I'm not sure of anybody in the U.S. that uses WhatsApp. I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing that I'm just showing my age. I have no idea. But what this what I want to do is a series of videos like this, and if you guys show interest in this, I'll do more. If not, then I'll stop. But what I plan to do is walk through the Viper method as I had written in the Time Wealthy Advantage. And if for those of you who have not had a chance to see the book, and it's interesting because in my mind, I'm thinking everybody's kind of sick of it already. And I was watching a video by Alex Hormozy, and he had said, and if you don't know who Alex Hormozy is, the owner. He and his wife Layla are the owners of acquisition.com, and he's written several books. He's written Gym Launch Secrets, which if you are a gym rat and you are trying to start your own gym, I would absolutely recommend that you read that book. I actually have it here on my bookshelf here in a second. So I don't have all my books out here, but I do have this one. This is Gym Launch Secrets. That is his, and it is a really, really good book. It gets very granular about how to run a gym and how to run it profitably. And he does it in a really cool way. And I would recommend really anybody that is looking to do any sort of service-based business, coaching, consulting, anything along those lines, to read that Gym Launch Secrets book, even though there's a lot of really good nuggets in there. And he basically would go around the United States and launch gyms and get them profitable and keep them profitable. And he did he's got an incredibly unique view on this, and he's a very, very smart business guy. I do like him. He doesn't match entirely with my core values, but he does do well in lots of different areas. So this is the book that the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you'd like to get a copy of that, in the description, I will make sure that there is a link to where you can go get a copy of the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you don't see that, you can drop a comment, and I will make sure that you get the link in your hot little hand. So what I plan to do on this is to walk through the Viper method and just use different some things that are not anecdotal but actual clients. But I will change names, I will change states, I will change businesses, because for me, I want to make sure that I'm not feeling like anybody is being thrown under the bus or being called out. But and if anybody has been coaching with me for a while, you know how much I love my stories and how much I love to tell anecdotes. So the Viper method, starting out, for those of you who have not had a chance to do the homework, it's an acronym, and the acronym starts with V, which is vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. So what I plan to do through this series of videos is really just talk about different aspects of the Viper method and different things that I'll just pull a couple different things. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go through all five on every single video, because that would just get ridiculously long. But if you are interested in how to apply this, that's really what I want to do, is show people how to apply this in different aspects of their life. And especially if you're a business owner, or if you want to be a business for yourself, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're really wanting to get deeper into the Viper method, but you don't want a, let me say this a different way. You want to get deeper into business, but you don't want the business to occupy your life. You don't want the business to become and consume your life. And I know in the beginning days, it is really easy to think about how you're like, oh man, I don't care. I want my business. I don't really care what my business, you know, um, uh, I don't care how much time I spend on my business. I want to make all this money. And I get it. In my 20s, you weren't going to tell me any different. But the thing was that as I'm looking at things now, and I'm looking through the lens of a 52-year-old man who's got kids at home, and I want to spend time with them. I want to spend time, watching them grow up and having moments with them and creating memories with them and being part of their lives. That's really important to me. And that is why vision for me, when we look at the Viper method, the vision piece is so incredibly important. And the vision piece has two components to that. So if you're looking, you have vision there. Hold on a second. Nope. Okay, so sorry, my slides are messed up. But the vision has two pieces to it. Vision has two components to it, and that is personal vision and business vision. Now, the personal vision piece is, there's so many different ways to look at the personal vision piece, but it really is first and foremost what it is that you want. What's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for you? So if you're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what do you mean by the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Like, what if you wake up with $30 million or $50 million in your bank account tomorrow, and really income generation is not something you have to worry about for the rest of your life, right? Like, what would that look like for you if you didn't have to worry about income generation? So now you can start thinking about that. Like, yeah, would you still want to be industrious? Would you still want to be and do things? Would you still maybe want to write books, or still want to get into business? Maybe you want to turn that 50 million to 100 million. That's fine. But at the end of the day, when you have decided that there's enough, what are you going to want to do? What are you going to want to turn your life into? And that is really what the personal vision is all about. The business vision exists to serve the personal vision. And that, understanding that, and when I climbed out of the smoking wreckage, that was 2009, after I lost $5 million worth of real estate in about 6 months, it was horrible. Well, it was actually a little bit longer than 6 months, about 8 months. But I had spent 10 years building a real estate portfolio that amassed to about $6.5 million worth of real estate, and managed to lose that in record time, in about 8 months, like I said. So for my next trip, that was terrible, right? And it sucked because I hadn't really experienced that level of failure before, and I really didn't know, everything that I was doing for a business vision. And not only did I lose all that real estate, but I got really, really sick, and I almost died in the hospital from double pneumonia. So coming to the other side of that, it was really difficult for me to come to the conclusion that, what am I doing all this for? And you're saying, well, how could it not be that difficult if you almost died? Well, the thing was, because I'd never created a personal vision, my business vision was in essence my personal vision. And everything that I had done, I wanted to amass this massive amount of real estate. I wanted several hundred rental properties. I wanted 1,000 rental units, and I wanted, all this, $1 million a month or whatever it was. I don't even remember what the ridiculous numbers were that I was shooting for. But I was incredibly busy, and I had no infrastructure, no processes, nothing. Basically, this is how I came up with the Viper method. So when I got really clear about what it was that I wanted, and in this particular case, it was pretty simple. It was like, okay, I want to live, I want to get really healthy, and now I can start getting really clear about what it is I want, and now I can construct a business vision that's in alignment with that personal vision. And one of the first things that I did on the other side of that was take Sundays off. And that was really hard to do because taking Sundays off was one of the more trickier things that I had to acknowledge that needed to happen because I just couldn't, I was just so burnt out after all, just working 7 days a week was just what you do as a business owner. And it was interesting, and interesting enough that, I mentioned this in Gym Launch, that Alex Hormozy had even said, you need to take a day off. He's like, take a day off, trust me, you will make more money. And I had listened to the book originally on Audible, and then I ended up reading the book afterwards. I remember listening to it on Audible, and I was like yelling into the car, like into the speaker. I'm like, yeah, right. Like it was finally, it was refreshing to hear someone who has a very good work ethic. Like he has no problem working 30 days straight, but he'll also admit, he's like, I'll work. He's like, I enjoy it. He's like, but if I don't feel like going in on a particular day, I won't go in. He's like, I'll work 16, 18 hours. He's like, I get enough rest. He's like, but if I don't feel like going or doing anything different, if I don't feel like going in that day, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna force myself to go do something I don't want to do. And it was just really interesting that he recognizes that dichotomy that exists between people who really enjoy working, but also people who are hiding in work or pretending to work, where they're just going to work because they don't have anything else to do, right? They're going to work because there's so much for them to do, but they're really not being effective. They're just going there out of habit. And that's something that I had noticed, truly in myself when I was going to work and not really being super effective. I was just going and doing stuff just for the sake of going and doing stuff. And I was going to work without really any specific plan. I just was grabbing whatever whatever thing was the squeakiest, whatever thing was the hottest, and just dealt with that particular thing. I was just in constant crisis reaction mode. So I wasn't launching gyms, but when he told us part of the story, he would do classes all day. He literally would get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and run early classes. Run classes all day. He barely had a chance to shower because he was sleeping at the gym. And he's like, I stunk. He's like, he hobo bathed the best that he could. And he would teach these classes, and then he would literally do that until like 9 or 10 at night, and then do billing, and then go to bed at like midnight, and then wake up at 5 and do it all over again. And there was a couple times that was my life. And not a couple times. That was my life from 2007, 2008, 2009. I did that for several years, and then finally, when the economy fell apart, I just poured fuel on the fire, and I was sleeping at rental units because it was easier for me to sleep at the rental unit that I was turning at the time, rather than waste the 15-minute drive there and then the 15-minute drive back. I could just take my boots off, lay on the floor, wrap up in a painter's tarp, and use that as a blanket, and my boots as a pillow, and that's what I would sleep on. And I did that. That was my life for several years, and it sucked. And that's what having a business vision without having a personal vision looks like. So, and I get it. I know there's some 20-year-olds that have already tuned out, or if you're still listening or you're watching this, you're saying, "Man, I don't mind. That's the grind. That's the hustle." I'm just telling you, it doesn't pay you the dividends you think it is. So that's that. So I'm not suggesting that business vision is irrelevant. It just can't come first. So when you're talking about business vision, I'm not going to get super granular on this because I want to stay focused on personal vision, but when you're looking at business vision, you're thinking about 3 C's, right? Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. So the core purpose is what business you're specifically in and what problems you solve. When you're looking at your core values, it's simply, what does the business stand for? And generally those things are in alignment with what you stand for, because your business is just an extension of you, right? So when you're looking at where you're at and you're thinking, okay, well, my business is just an extension of me, so you wouldn't put in place a set of core values that doesn't align with you, right? You wouldn't put core values in place, or you wouldn't open a business. You wouldn't want to run a business that doesn't align with your personal core values, right? Because it sucks. It's like working for a boss that doesn't align with your core values. Like if you were working for a boss that encourage you to lie and steal from your customers, and you're not about lying and stealing, then you're going to be miserable while you're working there, right? So it's the same thing. Like, why would you set up a business that doesn't align with your personal core values, even if you can make money, right? I'm just saying. I mean, it just doesn't work. So core purpose, core values, then find the client avatar. When you define the client avatar and you define that in alignment with the core purpose and the core values, now you can get really clear about who you want to serve. Now you can say, all right, I really want to work for a married couple, maybe who have kids, maybe who has a service type business, or maybe I want to work with people who live in this particular type of neighborhood or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it can be high-end avatar, low-end avatar, really whatever avatar you want, but you're going to break them down geographically, you're going to break them down demographically, and you're going to break them down psychographically. So that is all around business vision, for purpose, core values, and client avatar. So where I'm going to land the plane tonight, and we'll talk about, again, more about infrastructure and process execution and reporting another time, but the infrastructure is the bones of the business. The processes are all the things that you do that's in alignment with your infrastructure. Your execution, that's the things that you actually execute on, right? And that's the actual activity that you do. And then, of course, the reporting piece, you have to have a reporting function. You just cannot. I mean, that's where you get to check and see what you're actually doing, and if what you're doing is in alignment, and it's actually producing fruit. Because if what you're doing is not in alignment, and if what you're doing is not producing fruit, then you just need to adjust your actions. You just need to adjust your activities. You just need to look at the resources that you're putting out there, and resources in the effort of time, and the effort of money, and the effort of personnel, right? So, so all that to say, it was interesting because I was reviewing. I put a post up a few days ago on Facebook, which is an excerpt from my book that's going to be coming out in the spring, which is called Leader Boss. And so the Time Wealthy Leader Boss is really about it's the other side of the equation. The Viper method is the system piece, right? That's the system part of the business. But there's a human part of the business, and the human component of that business is what requires is where leadership is necessary. You need to have that human component. You need that. If you don't have that, you're. I mean, a system basically is only going to get you so far, right? So when you have that leadership component, that is what's necessary. That's what's needed, because you have to address that side of things. You have to address the human component, because it's humans that are going to be running the show. The humans are going to be the ones that are running the system. And unless you really truly want to stay a solopreneur, which there are businesses that are probably best run that way, but trust and know it's not a business. It might just be your cash cow that you make a bunch of money until you get to the other side. And that makes sense. Like that I can get behind that. I mean, I was in a cash cow position where when I was climbing out of that smoking wreckage back in 2009, I was doing whatever I could for money. I mean, it was, basically, I was doing a handyman service, which was not really what I wanted to do, but I was doing really well at it. And because I can fix most anything. I mean, I'm pretty smart when it comes to fixing stuff, and I can fix pretty much any type of appliance. You put a hammer in my hand in terms of any sort of carpentry, that's not really my skill set at all. You ask me to frame a door, it will literally take me all week. But you ask me to fix your washer, dryer, stove, refrigerator, oven, furnace, water heater, anything like that, anything mechanical, anything plumbing, anything electrical, I'm pretty good at. Beyond that, not so much. But I could do that, and I was cleaning gutters and replacing shingles and stuff like that, and replacing stack vent gaskets, and I mean, it was all stuff that wasn't super hard, but it was just time intensive. But it was me doing this, and when I was doing that, I was getting on roofs and doing all this other stuff, I was, I was making somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 a day. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a grind. It was a lot, and there was no way that I could keep that up. But I did it for a full year, and that gave me enough on that side to do to get enough money so I could get on the other side of things, and at least it gave me a toehold. So for a cash cow type business, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. But was it a true business? No. Was it scalable? No. But it was enough to get me enough to build a lifeboat to get me to where I needed to go, so I could start digging out, and that's exactly what I did. So I was able to dig out. I did not declare bankruptcy, although I considered it very strongly, but I did not have to declare bankruptcy, and that was a pretty cool thing. So that is where that's where I landed with that. So so this is pretty much what I plan to do with this series of videos is, if just really talk through this, and as people are bringing different things to me, I'm going to ask them for their permission to say, hey, look, is it okay if I talk about that on this series of videos, on this show? I don't really know if I have a name for this show or anything like that. I don't really know, but the interesting thing that I find is that there are so many people who have the same exact problems, and they don't necessarily need to pay me. But if I can get those messages out to as many people as possible, maybe it'll help them. And then when they do come to me, they're coming to me with more sophisticated issues, right? They're coming to me with bigger problems that I might actually have to come up with a strategy and help them work through. So those are the sorts of things that, my intent here is just to help as many people as possible, and let them know. And if you are interested in buying the book, I'll go ahead and put that up here. Let me get that. I think my slides all jacked up. I don't know what I did. Here we go. Oh, before I do that, let me show you here real quick. This page here is the. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can actually see it a little bit better. So that is the Time Wealthy Advantage group on Facebook. So if you are watching this on Facebook, or if you are interested and you are a Facebook type, the link is in the description. You can go there and be part of that. There's no fee or anything like that. It's just a free group, and we just go in there, and I post some videos in there. We encourage each other. But if you're a jerk, don't come. I'm serious. We don't want jerks in that room. But if you are interested in a copy of this book, The Time Wealthy Advantage, and there are actually a series of books. So these are the guides, and these guides they're just kind of meant to be primers. They're not meant to be the full. I had to at one point. The book was coming up to 300 pages, and there were some additional things that I wanted to say and take it in a different direction, and that's what these guides do. These guides really are, like this guide here, the strategic one sheets. It really talks about the strategic one sheets that are that how I carve out each one of my days, and that is something that I'm really and there's 8 different sheets in the strategic one sheets guide, and you get those downloads for free if you get those guides. So for a few extra bucks, you get those as well. But that link is also in the description. So if you are interested, great. If you are not, you are dead to me. I'm just kidding. If not, that's okay. If you do want to pay more money, though, you're welcome to go and buy it on Amazon, and I won't sign it, and I won't even know that you bought it. So there's that. But for those of you who are buying it right now, I am able to give you a 45-minute strategy session in addition to that. So once you just make sure that the information that you enter in the link is your best information, so I can get in contact with you. All right, that is all I have for tonight. That is what's that? Oh, I got a message. All right, that's all I have for tonight. We'll see you guys next time.